This is Schaefer here with UDA Technologies, and today we are going to take a lunch and learn covering leads and opportunities and how they work within Construction Online. Of course, as one of the senior product specialists for UDA Technologies, I'm very interested in making sure that you guys are taking advantage of these fantastic lead capture tools. But to help me with this is actually our head of the sales department and another senior product specialist, Holly Gipson.
Hey everybody.
And of course, we also have Sydney Dorsey joining us today to answer any questions that you guys might have as we do take a look at understanding leads and opportunities in Construction Online. So if you have any questions, take a look at that GoToWebinar panel. There's an area on there marked questions, and all you need to do is just click into it, enter in your question. Sydney will be able to cover any responses, or sometimes she'll also indicate to us which questions would be good for us to cover in the webinar. So it's really important that you guys take a look for that and ask as you guys have questions. Now, of course, as we're taking a look through these tools, we're going to be focused exclusively on Construction Online today. And I feel like that's probably a really important focus for us with over 600,000 users in now 80 different countries. We're hoping that you guys can go out there and really capture your segment of your construction markets and track all of this information well. We want all of you to have very strong, robust pipelines, lead pipelines, and today we're going to make sure that you guys have all the tools and know how to use them for doing exactly that. Now that said, Holly, let's go ahead and dive into your Construction Online account and take a look first at what leads are and where to find them.
That's right. So we'll go ahead and jump in and go right into my account here and get started with leads. Now our first step, of course, is going to be before we start tracking the leads, we really want a way to capture those leads. So we're going to look at a couple of different ways that you guys can do this. The first way is going to be, really just entering those leads in. Now I know I've had a chance to work with thousands of you guys over the course of the years of my years here at UDA. And one of the things I find is that usually there's someone in your office, or sometimes it's you guys as the owners will be getting those phone calls from potential leads. Maybe you have the office line just routed to your cell phone. Maybe you have a dedicated person in the office to go ahead and capture that information. But really where we begin with this lead pipeline is we want a place to actually put that information. When a potential client comes to us and indicates interest in doing business with us, we really don't want to drop the ball on following up with that person. We want to make sure that we have a single place to put all the information that we're gathering here, and that's really where using a tool like the sales management tools available to you guys in Construction Online really becomes such a valuable addition to your day-to-day operations. So let's say we are in the office. The first thing that's going to happen is we get a phone call. Perhaps we have a new lead that calls in. We're interested in doing business. So the super easy thing for us to do is just hit that new lead button and go ahead and start gathering the information. Now the great thing here is that you can see as we're gathering that information here in Construction Online, there are a lot of options, things that we can fill out. We usually want to start with, for sure, the basics. We'll get the person's name. Ian will go ahead and enter you in here.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. And we'll go ahead and put in an email address. We want a way to be able to get in touch with Ian. Next, we have some additional information that we can start to fill out. And in most cases, we're going to want to get things like, an address, phone numbers, that sort of thing. We want to be able to get in touch. So we'll go ahead and enter whatever we get on the phone. I know that many of you have certain pieces of information that really you expect either for yourself or your team members to gather about every inquiry that comes in, so that you can go ahead and begin the process of qualifying whether this is going to be a good fit for your firm based on the project that the potential customer is looking for. A couple of other things that you can also track in Construction Online, lead tracking, and things that we've actually created as new options for Construction Online 2019 are just some additional information here about perhaps the region where this lead is located, the division or office that's going to handle the lead. So for those of you who have offices located in different areas of of the country or your region, or maybe have your team divided into different divisions, maybe you have a residential division or a commercial division, you might want to use these options for tracking that information. All of these drop downs are customizable, so we can add that information in very quickly and begin tracking that. And this is going to be helpful when you have, not only 10 or 20 leads, but often I'll work with clients, and my account is certainly the same, where you'll actually have 1,000 leads or 2,000 leads or 10,000 leads. So the more of this information we can capture and go ahead and tag as we're creating these leads or as we're updating them, it gives us a great way to go back and actually do some reporting on those later, some filtering as well.
And I've been a huge fan of these custom fields as well, because everybody has specific sections that they're going to be working with. But more importantly, we're interested heavily in your growth. As you expand to include new styles of construction, or as you guys are acquiring maybe your competition, maybe they bring in a different style of work. Maybe historically you do residential projects and you're going to be bringing on remodeling jobs. Or maybe you're going to be doing restoration projects for some areas locally, perhaps. Again, you have the ability to customize this, and as you add more and more information, it's going to give you better insight, not only on what type of leads are coming your way, but also how you organize and group them. And then, of course, as we dive into some additional details here, you'll actually be able to track that other information in some of the subsequent tabs, like lead details themselves.
That's right. So, our first step is really to capture some of that general contact information. The next thing that we'll start to flesh out about our leads are going to be pieces of information really specific to that lead or sales management process. So here's where we're going to look at the status of the lead. Typically this is going to be either open or close, although you do have an inactive option here. You also have different types of leads. So this could be new or existing business. Again, fully customizable, so you can come in and make adjustments if you need to adjust that here. Now, as we get into a couple of the other pieces of information here, really what I see in most cases is that you definitely want to always track your lead stage. So this is really what helps the lead move through the pipeline that we see here. So the lead stage is just indicating where are they in your sales process. Again,
yeah, I was going to say, and this comes into play for a number of different areas as well. As you're moving people through your lead pipeline and you're tracking your progress with each of those additional leads, you'll also have the ability to go check in on your sales team as you're working through this. Probably the most valuable portion of the lead stages in the lead pipeline that I've ever found is moving your potential clients, your leads, through this pipeline allows you to track where they're getting stuck, how long they spend in each of these stages, and maybe it allows you to improve upon your process because you can adjust it a little bit, or maybe even customize your lead stages to break one into two. Maybe that sales appointment or your estimate stage needs to be broken into an initial estimate and then a presentation stage or something along those lines. That insight, of course, especially right now at a glance, Holly, with the lead stages that we're looking at up above, it conveys so much valuable information at a glance, and it just saves so much time just being able to quickly check these things.
It does. It saves a lot of time, and it really gives you action. The idea here isn't just to store the information. It's a great repository for information and reporting, but one of the goals or objectives in using a tool like this is to give yourself actionable next steps with these leads that come in. And so that's where those lead stages really, when you put someone in a lead stage, you should know, based on the stage that you've assigned them to, what the next action you or your team would need to take to help them move on to that next stage.
Yeah, and in situations like that too, as you're putting in new leads or you're working your way through this, our expectation is going to be important here. As we're working through this lead pipeline, of course, our hope is that we have tons and tons of new leads coming in. As we build up this lead pipeline, we're going to be pulling in leads from a number of different sources. Maybe we've got home shows that we're working on. Again, picking up the phone, that's always a valuable way to get those leads. Or if you guys have a showroom, maybe that's part of your process. All leads should come to the beginning. And again, those action items, Holly, that you were mentioning just a moment ago, these are going to be your triggers for moving through the lead stages and into new areas of the pipeline for you guys to track it. Again, ideally, you'd be seeing lots of people in the beginning and then just the successful leads further down into the contract awards. In our case, Holly, as we're looking at this one, we have a lot of contracts awarded, and you might as well. As you're working through that, you can keep an eye on the contract awards. This might be a big number because we've got a lot because we've been working in Construction Online for a long time, or it might be a smaller number because we cull it periodically. But again, as you're working with your individual companies, you can make those adjustments. Now, as we move into some of the additional details here, again, you'll find areas like the type of leads or perhaps lead sources. Lead sources would typically be things, as you see here, advertising, events, shows, home shows, things like that, referrals or repeat business. These are huge. So as you're looking through these, you'll find a lot of these. Again, a customizable list so that you can organize it. Same for business. What type of business is it? But as you continue through, some of my favorite fields and my favorite fields in this section under lead details are probability, lead quality, and lead value. Now, of course, the value, this is a multi-purpose field. I find that some people will come in and they'll try to put the customer's budget here under lead value. I've always been kind of up in the air. I feel like the budget is the number that they want to have for the lead value, but I actually recommend under lead value putting in how much you think that they should be, that price point, and whether or not they're comfortable with that. That might in turn impact the lead quality, where if you think that the job that they're looking at is a $100,000 project, but they tell you they've got a $10,000 budget, maybe a little lower on the quality, probably low on the probability. And again, it might be a way for you to track realistic expectations, but most importantly, give you and your sales team a good idea of which ones deserve your time, where you're investing your time using those probabilities and lead qualities. They help substantially. And so with these additional fields, you'll just be able to kind of track that information through, and eventually you'll find that that metric is measurable as well. Holly, you were talking about some of the action items that we're trying to generate from that pipeline. How would action items then in turn trigger things like a probability adjustment or a lead quality perhaps? Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always think of the lead quality as a kind of a gut check. So part of what you can do is really, as we get this information in, and actually have some great questions coming in about filtering. So we'll go ahead and create this lead. So we'll go ahead and we'll say, Ian, you're going to be a 4-star lead for us here today, and we'll go ahead and put some numbers in here. So we've got the date, of course, that our lead is opened. We'll go ahead and save that. But one of the things that I really love about kind of managing the lead pipeline, and we'll go ahead and make that a little bigger here, but as we manage the lead pipeline and are recording this information, it absolutely does drive future action. So of course, part of that is going to come from the stages. Great question, by the way, coming in about the ability to filter by these stages. You can just click here and that actually activates the filter by stage. So maybe we want to start really analyzing what's happening with our leads. At this point in my pipeline, I think I have about 1,200 leads. And I want to go back and be able to take a look, or just over 1,000 here, at, does this lead quality correlate with anything? Do I see maybe higher levels of success? Is my gut right? When I'm looking at that lead quality, how often am I close to the dollar value that I think it's going to be? So that really then drives all sorts of action on the front end of your sales process, allowing you to maybe ask better questions in those initial conversations, or kind of drill down into an initial estimate that you provide and look at that from a different perspective. So it absolutely drives all sorts of actions and adjustments, both large and small, for you and your team, just to have access to this information. In addition...
and just really quick to reiterate on this as well, for those filters and all the different options that you have available here, as we're watching Holly kind of navigate through this, again, we've got the 4 primary lead filters in that section where you can define the status, the source, the type, and the sales rep that we're going to be kind of looking into a little bit more. But again, keep in mind that on the lead stages, all you have to do is click on the stage and it automatically filters down to everything within that stage too. You'll notice the contacts down below that are adjusting. So that's not a drop down anymore. We've made it a little bit more interactive. That pipeline has that clickable option so that you can get into those 13 leads in the estimate stage or the 33 under sales appointment to figure out where those appointments are or who we're working with. All this information is designed to just give you these now 5 filterable sections to get the report down below of all the leads that fit these qualifications based on the discussion that we're having or the sales meeting that we're looking at or forecasting. Maybe that would be a big part as well.
Exactly. And of course, the lead stage is probably one of the most actionable things that you're tracking. That's what's driving your next step. So that, that's why it's tied so closely to this pipeline. To activate it, you'll click here. To deactivate it, you'll click again. So that works like a toggle. Another great thing about the way these filters work is that they are compound filters. So we don't have to choose just one filter. If we want to see all of our leads that are in this sales appointment stage that are assigned to myself as a sales rep, maybe of a certain type and coming from a certain source, we would be able to do that and kind of see not just one filter applied, but actually multiple filters applied to give you exactly what you want. Now, from a sales rep standpoint, you may want to just filter down all of your leads that are assigned to you, and you can actually lock that down by just clicking the little lock here. So once you lock that, you'll notice that it turns blue, and that just means that your filters are saving for next time. So every time you come to this page, you're always going to see, maybe a list of just your leads. From a sales management perspective, you may actually want to look at each sales rep individually, kind of dive in a little bit more, take some of these other filters off, but maybe we're looking more just by rep. We want to see, how each sales rep is doing, what the average dollar value of their deals is. Does that align with what your expectations are? Another really valuable piece of information we get, and again, going back to driving that action with your organization, would be filtering by lead source. So in many cases, a big piece of what we're wanting to track with these leads is, who is it? How did they hear about us? Who are they going to be working with on my sales team? And then, of course, did we win that job or lose that job? Or in some cases, defer on that job. So when we look at tracking lead source, again, this is a drop down that you can customize, but it does help you to have a much better understanding of what marketing activities are working. If most of your work is word of mouth or referral, you may want to see how that compares with maybe people that say they saw you, I don't know, just on the internet. They maybe were searching for a contractor, or, even if you're not engaging in really active marketing campaigns or advertising, usually your leads are coming to you either through a word of mouth or an internet search, or search through a phone book or something like that. And it's helpful to track that so that you can understand maybe where to then invest marketing dollars and where not to. I know that many of you guys participate in some of the local home shows or tour of homes, things like that, different trade shows and things, really to get exposure to potential clients for yourself. And so when you look at, how much am I spending on these events? How many leads did we gather? Was that an effective investment for me and my company? That's where really tracking this information helps.
Mm-hmm. And we actually have a question here as well from one of our viewers about entering in groups of leads, lots of leads. So we took a look at how to manually enter them. Again, if somebody calls in, again, as we look through the various different options as well that you guys have within ConstructionOnline, you'll also find options for importing leads. Like if you guys have like a spreadsheet of leads that you may have gathered from a trade show or a home show of some kind. We were at the International Builder Show, and we actually had a full spreadsheet that was sent to us for all the leads that we gathered. So you have these tools available, and you can actually pull them in directly. More importantly, though, there's actually a tool that you can activate either on your ConstructionOnline public profile or that you can add to your own website for capturing those leads as well. these lead capture or the web capture settings here are a fantastic way to automate that lead content. As people do find you on the website, your public profile might show up with your website as the first 2 hits for your area if somebody does a Google search. And when they do, these call to actions are going to be available to you on the website, on your public profile, and just like Holly, you were saying earlier, you can define who gets all of these emails and these notifications so that they can then chop them up. Or in this case, you could get all the leads that are coming to the website, and then you can assign them out to us as you see fit.
As needed. That's exactly right. So you'll notice when we look at those web capture settings, so this is going to be located for here. So you'll notice right beside our date filter, we do have web capture settings. So this is where you would either grab that code. And so what this is going to do is this would be something that, whoever's built your website would be able to just embed this directly onto your company's website. Usually that's going to be under like a contact us button or area. Or I know some of you have done a really great job, saying like, ready to get your project started, contact us here. This is the form that they would fill out. You also can activate that on your public profile, Ian, like you were mentioning, just by checking this box. So that's super easy to turn on and off. And then the other thing at the bottom of this form would be that once we have this activated, whether on our public profile or website, and we would recommend both, then you also can choose who is going to receive notifications whenever that form is submitted. So in this case, I've got notifications set up for myself, and I want to receive an email and get a text message immediately whenever a new lead fills out this form. And that's exactly what will happen now that I have those settings saved. And I can show you guys what that kind of looks like on my public profile with that activated. But once I have those saved, when someone comes in, fills out the form, immediately I'm going to receive a text message that says, hey, Holly, you have a new lead. Make sure that you give them a call so that they're not really having to wait. I'm able to be very responsive. And to me, that's important to respond quickly. I think that's just great customer service. But also, many of you I know are out and about frequently. You may not be always just in the office kind of watching the email. So it's great that you can get that text, be able to make a phone call right there, have all the information that you need to do that.
Now, just quick recommendation as well. One of the most effective ways that I have seen from a lot of our clients for gathering those leads, especially from your own website, a lot of really, I want to say aggressive salespeople will put together informative brochures or record little videos or something like that for anybody who's interested in doing some work that kind of fits along with your model. And then what you'll find is a lot of the times they'll have a fill out the form and then we'll email you the information. I've seen a lot of Construction Online users doing that, especially recently, as just the extra incentive to get people to fill out the form. Some people will just put it out there and say, hey, if you have a question or if you're interested, let us know. The really aggressive sales reps that I've found, the ones that I really appreciate the work that they're doing, will provide that extra incentive for the sales for the potential lead to go download this file or get the email with the file, and that's just how it starts. Again, if we're looking for recommendations on how to better capture leads, take a look at that. You'll find that this information, this experience that you guys already have, is a pretty huge draw for some of the people who would be thinking about those projects, and it's just an easier way to get them into your pipeline sooner and away from your competition, which I guess is really some of the most important parts here.
That's right. That's what we want. We want to be able to get in touch with them, start providing great service from the very first moment that they reach out to us, and this really enables you and your team to be able to do that. Now, when they fill out the form, of course, they're going to be dropped right in here into your leads list. They're going to go in your very first lead stage. So however you have that set up, they'll be dropped into this stage 1. And then, Ian, like you said, from here, you would either call them yourself, maybe assign that to a sales rep. If you're going the route where we're assigning to a sales rep, then when the sales rep is assigned to that lead, again, they have those options to receive email, text, letting them know, Holly, you were just assigned a new lead. So now they know that they need to, kind of begin that process and take some action.
Now, along those lines too, Holly, as you are well aware, and for those of you who are watching, you may already be aware of this as well. My calendar is my Bible. I live and breathe by what shows up on my calendar, my activities and my tasks and everything like that. Holly, how could you enable me or kind of promote my success as one of your sales reps using the lead calendar tools available in Construction Online?
Yeah, that's a great question, because Construction Online really does have some phenomenal tools available from a calendar perspective. So a couple of recommendations that I would make to you guys, and I'll show you exactly where you can begin to set some of this up. It actually begins when we're creating that new lead. So as we're creating a new lead, one of the things that you have available are these lead events. So at the very moment that we're creating or capturing that new lead, we're entering their information, you can actually go ahead and create a lead event, which is going to put it right in on your calendar. So it could be that I just want to assign the lead to a sales rep and then schedule a callback at a specific time. Or maybe I want to go ahead and set up a meeting. I know, again, for many of you that I've worked with, kind of having a consultation at their site is a pretty early stage thing that I know, some people do. So it may be that you have a meeting or a site meeting. Again, customizable, so we kind of preload you with callbacks and meetings, but you can add as many of those types as you need to, kind of based on your process. So we'll go ahead and enter in the date. If it's a meeting, what time that meeting's going to start, enter in some notes, and of course, assign that out. So that's something that you can go ahead and do right as you're creating the lead. Now, it's also something that I really recommend that you guys do as a regular part of your day-to-day just lead management process. As a sales manager or a sales representative, as you're looking at these leads, usually we're going to want to see when is the next callback scheduled, or when was the last time that I actually worked with this person. So you can see all of that right here. In different columns on this chart, I can see, the last contact with this lead was June of 2018. So we would probably want to do something about that. So you can see all that information. And as you're going through managing the leads, if you want to add a new event for existing leads, you can do that on edit, or you can just do that by adding lead event here. So maybe we want to set up a meeting here with Al. So we'll go ahead and add a lead event. We'll make this a meeting. We're going to set that up for today at, let's do 3:30 this afternoon. We'll assign that for an hour. If we want to color code that, we can, or add some notes. Now, Ian, if I'm, from a management perspective, maybe assigning this to you as a sales rep, or maybe we have a receptionist that's setting this up, of course, we'd want to go ahead and assign that to someone. This is going to trigger that communication to let you know that this is happening. We'll go ahead and save that. And then as we head over to our calendar, now we'll be able to see all of the activities scheduled, kind of within this week or within today or within the month. We break this down into a couple of different sections. So the first one is your regular calendar, which you can see here. I've got a meeting with Al, so you can see the details very quickly. Then you also have your call list, which would be people maybe that you're not meeting with, but that you do have phone calls either scheduled for, that you need to make sure that you're making those regular follow-up phone calls too.
Mm-hmm. And I especially love this section over on the right sidebar where we've got that call list, because again, what we're doing in this case is we're setting it up so that it's a very actionable area. From here, I know exactly where I need to start. If I've got any from earlier in the week or last week that I wasn't able to get to, those will be top of the list. You'll see the overdue calls. You'll be able to get in there and get everything taken care of. And again, what we're doing with this is we're just giving you the most important, functional, actionable things so you don't have to find the data. You just come in here and immediately get to work. And I especially love, Holly, like you were speaking on a moment ago, all of these options are available now in the right-click menu as well, which is new and unique for Construction Online, that you could just right-click and add in new events and add new activities. From the lead calendar, you could just click on the day and start creating more content for us. And again, it's just by design very easy to get the information in. It's very intuitive as you're working with these things. And for me, as the salesperson, accessing most of this information from my phone perhaps, Holly, you're able to help us meet the expectations with the customers that we're setting up, because that activity immediately shows up for me in the app. All the information that I need is there, And then once I'm finished with my call, I can even log the details for what we discussed so that you can follow up on my work.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if we head back over to our lead calendar, and this option is available from your lead pipeline list or from your calendar, if we think about where we start with gathering and capturing the leads. We start kind of next with making sure that we're gathering or collecting the information we want. What's our lead quality? Where did the lead come from? Who is it assigned to? Our next step is going to be really making sure that we don't forget to do those follow-ups. Don't forget about meetings or appointments that are scheduled, that we have a great system in place. So that's really where that calendar comes into play. And the next step beyond that would be to make sure that we're documenting everything that we're doing from an activity standpoint with those leads, so that when we go back and look at Alan here, we're able to see, well, what all have I done with Alan since he initially raised his hand and said, hey, I'm interested in doing business with you. So one of the ways that we do that is by entering those call logs. So not only is Alan on my list for today, so I see that I need to call him, I can make a quick phone call, and then I can add this call log entry. And this is a place where you would enter ongoing notes about your leads are typically going to be logged as call log entries. If you are meeting with people in person, this is also a great place to just capture the details of that meeting, kind of as an entry there. But typically it's going to be phone calls. You'll be able to note the date and time that you spoke with the person, maybe how long you guys spoke. So maybe it was a 10-minute conversation. And most importantly, this is where you would, really talk about the details of what you discussed. So for Alan, we might say, spoke with Alan about start date for his project. He plans to stop by the office and sign the contract today. So there we have some information gathered, so we'll go ahead and save that. Of course, based on this, we might want to also update his lead stage, but now we have a record of what we've done. We can check that off as complete. And when we look at our lead call log, then we have all of the notes that we've entered based on the different phone calls that we've made and activities that we've logged with our leads in one place. So again, from a management standpoint, I can scroll through this newsfeed and be able to see activity across all of my sales reps, all of the leads that we have in the system, and really be able to see what type of sales activity we're engaging in as a team. But if you're looking for an individual lead, maybe you just want to really look at, maybe we just want to look at Alan. So we would filter down the list by that particular lead and be able to see only that information pertaining to them.
Again, it allows you to pull a lot of this information, what I would think of as maybe a non-traditional reporting style, but rather than having to run the report and wait a couple of minutes as you might have in your old sales tools or systems, this just allows you to easily access all the information that's already there. If you want to change the report up a little bit, you just change a filter or click on a different drop down. Or again, that trackability and that history of information, by the way, is always going to be there for you, so you can always go back and review and make sure that, if I make promises about one of our sales, we have the ability to meet those, instead of being in a situation, if we're not documenting things, where we overpromise and underdeliver. That, to me, is the worst thing that can happen on the sales side, and with those call logs, we avoid it, which is what we're looking for.
That's right. Now, you mentioned reports, Ian, so before we jump into really what our next step would be, which is not only tracking the lead, but tracking specific potential projects for that lead, and we would call those opportunities. So before we jump into that, there's a couple of additional things I want to cover on this page. You mentioned reporting. So one thing that we've done here really well is to actually give you what I think of as on-page reporting. All of the filters that you have here, and this would be the stages, the different filters available here, as well as date filters. This gives you some really powerful information, again, as a company, to see how many leads were created between January 1 and March 31st. How do we do first quarter? Maybe let's compare that to first quarter last year and see, are we up or down? So you've got some really great information that you can pull right on the page. If you'd like to generate a PDF, you do have the lead report tool available to you here. So that's another, just another option in terms of in terms of reporting and things like that you can generate that really give you those same type of filters and will total up those dollar values for you. And then finally, just know that you also do have the ability here to set your column order and turn these columns on and off. So we definitely recognize that there are going to be certain best practices that you guys will want to follow, but your businesses are unique, your process is unique, and the type of information you're tracking is definitely going to be different in different circumstances. So this really allows you to turn on the things that are most relevant and turn off the things that you're not tracking, so that nothing's in the way. You're always looking at information that is most important to you and your team.
Now, along those lines too, Holly, we had an interesting discussion, or made an interesting comment a couple of minutes before we were sitting down for the webinar today. Construction Online includes a feature that, again, is very unique for online project management systems. We have an additional feature on Construction Online called Redline Plan Room. Mm-hmm. And Plan Room is part of what makes Plan Room unique for UDA, is the ability to go through and take any of the content that you're creating within the Construction Online platform, like to-do lists or punch lists or calendar activities or something like that, and actually pin them directly to a set of plans. Now, in most cases, if we're working on like a home or an office or something like that, it's pretty straightforward. You make a change order, you pin it to the room where the change order applies. That's represented in Construction Online here. Over on the left side, we have a section where you can pin any items right here. Now, the conversation, the way this kind of happened earlier, I saw this here in Leads, and I said, Holly, can you think of a situation where you would pin leads to a set of plans? And I love your response, because for some of you guys, you might not even be thinking about this, but Holly, what did you tell me again?
Yeah, so that is a great question, Ian, and I love the way you tell that story. Really what happened is we were looking and Ian said, Holly, why in the world do you have that lead on a plan? And I said, well, think about it. So we have, of course, some really great kind of different ways that Redline Plan Room can be used. But I've actually worked with, again, several clients who are looking at lead tracking. Again, it depends on your business model, right? So it's a great question. Why would we have a need to pin a person onto a plan? But what I see, kind of most commonly used here is, especially for those of you who are working in subdivisions, doing property development, doing multifamily or mixed use developments, things like that. It may be that as you're building homes for, say, the subdivision, that you're selling the lots first and then building the house. It could be that you're doing semi-custom, so you're going ahead and starting those homes and then selling them while they're being built. But either way, it's great to load in into Redline, just like a kind of a copy of that master plan that shows really the layout of that whole plan development. Then you can actually take these leads, tag them to the lot or home or unit that they're associated with, and be able to have a really visual representation of what's been sold, what hasn't, where things are being sold, all sorts of great information that you can get from that. Yeah,
and of course that conversation then in turn kind of got me thinking about it. The hamster runs over, jumps into the wheel, and he starts jogging. Ultimately, where that went too is we've got a lot of clients who work on commercial projects, a lot of tenant improvement jobs where you're working in a strip mall or a specific section. And something like that might really help, because you might have a couple of people that you're working for in a specific building, but it's segmented out into different office spaces. So it's a great way to just kind of indicate who's where. And when we're scheduling these meetings, again, I live by my calendar. So when we're scheduling those, I can pull up the plans for the unit that I'm going out to, and I can figure out which suite I'm supposed to be walking into to have the meeting with the customer. And the customer can do the same. They know where they're supposed to be. I know where we're supposed to be. We all know where we're meeting. And again, it's a super, super simple option here, or what we might think to be really simple. It's one of those obviously moments. Until you said it, I was like, well, obviously I want to do that. Obviously right? I'm going to use these features. Obviously we want to be able to pin it. And it just communicates so much information with a pin. Such
a great set of options. Now, when we look at tracking all of that, so we've really gone over a lot of great things that we can track from a lead or sales standpoint. Really the only thing that's missing right now is an estimate or a lead that we've actually seen through to a signed contract and an actual job that we plan to take on. Again, process will look different for some of you guys, but generally what will happen as you're following these leads is that normally you're going to get to a point in that pipeline where we really want to put together an initial estimate or a proposal for that lead. Not all leads that come into your pipeline are going to be good fits for you and your company. Not all leads actually represent potential jobs. In some cases, you have a conversation with them, it's not going to be a good match, and you move along. For the ones that are moving through your pipeline, though, you'll get to a point where you need to generate a proposal for them, and that's really where the next thing we want to cover, opportunities. That's really where those opportunities come into play. You have the ability, of course, to go straight from a lead to a project, but in most cases, you'll want to begin putting that information together before you actually have the signed contract, and that would, again, certainly be best practice or what we would recommend. And so that's where we would want to really begin to create opportunities, which are really just potential jobs. Opportunities represent potential projects that are not live, active projects in our system yet or in our day-to-day business pipeline.
Mm-hmm. And again, the question always comes up for us as well. What's the difference between a lead and an opportunity in ConstructionSuite or ConstructionOnline, any of the UDA tools and platforms as we discuss them? Again, the big part, Holly, as you just kind of mentioned, opportunities are the jobs. This is the potential for work. This is where you'll find the estimate for the work. This is where we'll eventually start putting in files and pictures and documents, generating the proposal. It's that folder that you create for your job. If you guys were working with something like that, like if you have a file server or something, this represents that. But the beauty of having the opportunities here is it keeps them separated in an area where you can still focus on the work that's happening under your projects list. And you can have your sales team focus on bringing in more work by having them look through these opportunities. It just kind of separates and allows better focus on these things. And when you're looking at these opportunities, of course, there's some fantastic tools in here for working with them, like templating these jobs where you can put together the standard estimate template that I'm supposed to use for these, the selection set that we're supposed to be working with. You can gather all that information up in the opportunity template. And then, of course, as you're going through and creating new ones, that's the choice that you have. You can, once again, make that connection between the type of work that we're doing, commercial or residential. You can have different opportunity types to fit different styles. And it's all prepackaged and ready. So I have almost no work that I have to do to even generate that opportunity.
That's right. Opportunities really give you the best of both worlds. We're wanting to get a project started that we haven't won yet, but we do need to start putting it together. And then once that opportunity is won, the transition into a project is seamless. So let's take a look at what that actually looks like as we step through ConstructionOnline. Of course, we're on our opportunities page, so just like everywhere else in ConstructionOnline, you'd be able to create a new one just by hitting that Create New. I do want to step back over to our lead pipeline and show you as well that if you're working with a lead and you move them through the stages, it's time to make that opportunity. That right-click menu, Ian, that you mentioned earlier also has that new opportunity for this lead option. So one thing that we do want to do is make sure that our opportunities are tagged to a lead so that when we look at this table, we can see not only the name of the opportunity or potential job, but we can see which person or lead that's related to. This situation, by the way, works exceptionally well, not only for, just purposes of tracking those potential jobs, but when we think about the way that process works, it may be that you're working with a single person or owner who has multiple properties they want you to look at building out for them, or maybe they're an investor who plan to build multiple retail spaces under one umbrella, but they want you to do all of them throughout the Southeast, or maybe you're working with a homeowner that you've done repeat remodeling jobs for. So all sorts of different scenarios where, one lead or one person doesn't always equal one job. Sometimes that one lead could equal 5 or 10 jobs in your opportunity pipeline here. So we want to be able to see who each of these opportunities is related to. Just like creating a lead, it's as simple as filling out a form. The big difference here is that we can go ahead and use a template. And one thing to note is that as we're creating an opportunity from a template, these are just our standard project templates. So opportunities won't have all of the tools available while they're in that opportunity stage, but you can still use full project templates to take advantage of not just templates for things like estimates, but anything else you have templated in the background would become active once this opportunity was activated into a project. So again, just like with leads, we're going to create a new one. We'll fill out our form. We'll track those details. So we won't go through this process again. But once we've done that, now I have my opportunity kind of pipeline or report here, and I can start to see some additional information. It's great to be able to see the opportunity value, and we'll just edit this and and enter some of that information in. So let's just say that in the lead, stage, I thought that this project was going to be worth $30,000. So then we'll be able to start to see, well, how do those opportunity values that I'm projecting compare with the estimate values of what I'm actually entering, into the system there. So you get some great information. And then these opportunities also have a pipeline very similar to your lead pipeline. And in most cases, if you're using both, this pipeline or these opportunity stages generally kind of pick up where the other one leaves off. That's kind of a common setup that I see, is that lead pipeline kind of leads up to this conversion into an opportunity or potential project. And then the rest of these stages kind of bring us through the estimate, proposal, and final contract phases.
And once again, this is a very customizable opportunity set as well. So just like with all of our customizable options or stages, we have a little gear on the page where you can go into and make some of these adjustments. This one in particular is important because what you'll find here is we're kind of walking through it with the opportunity stages. Those stages are going to be different based on the type of company that we're working with at any given point. For example, if you guys do design build work, you'll have a section here for design contract, and then it goes into estimating and proposal and so on. Mm-hmm. If you don't, easily eliminate that. If you need to rearrange your steps because maybe it doesn't quite fit as well as you'd like, again, click on that option to customize, and you can just drag them up and down to fit the new stage or pipelines that you guys want to create. But again, as you're looking for this, anytime you're looking to make customizations to one of these areas, you'll see the little gear or the cog to indicate that the customization can be made here. And again, my expectation is that each of you will go into and take a look at it and consider the kind of work that you do and how this opportunity stage might be adjusted to fit you and your team's work. And definitely consider the stages that we make available to you ahead of time. Again, this is coming from our experience working with probably over the past 20 years that UDA has been in business. We've worked with easily over 1 million different contacts, different customers over that time. So as you're working through this, we've preloaded it to give you an idea, and then you can go through and make that idea your own, just by some of those quick and easy customization steps.
Exactly. And the great thing here is that the way you do that with opportunities is very, very similar to the way you do that with leads. So it'll be an easy process for you and your team to follow. Those are the similarities. When we think about the differences, additional differences, kind of outside of in concept, right? What's the difference between a lead and an opportunity is that in Construction Online, opportunities do start to give you additional capabilities. Just like with leads, we can come in and edit our opportunities, and this is where we would update information like, who it's assigned to or what type of job will this be and different details here. So that's great to keep that updated. That should be part of your day-to-day process. You also have the option to manage content or create content, of course, and this is where you're going to really start to work with things like not only being able to view and see this opportunity information, but here's where we can see how far along are we. I've created the opportunity. Have I created an estimate? Are we still open or closed? And you can start to compile those files. So again, common process would be, we move into that opportunity stage. We need to make an estimate. Often a big part of that might be going out to the site and taking photos. So we might want to go ahead and upload those into a folder here. So we might call this preliminary photos. We might go ahead and create a folder and call this proposals. If you want to make a couple of variations of a proposal for your client. So you can go ahead and start really building the documentation for this project right here in the opportunity phase. And then of course, really the most important next step is going to be to come in and actually build that estimate. So you guys are working with Construction Online and doing your estimates here. This is all going to look very familiar because you really have access to the full estimating tool right here in the opportunities to be able to come in and put together your estimates. That would include things like allowance amounts if you're using allowances or selections with your clients, so you can really come in, flesh this estimate out, and be able to generate a great proposal for your clients or potential clients all right here from your opportunity section.
And again, keep in mind that all of this information is designed to be contained within the opportunity, but eventually it's going to become the project. This is kind of your staging ground for getting all of that information together. So as we are gathering the information, the file section should have all the folders for, again, things like permitting as we're ready to get ready, or as we're getting this job put together. Maybe you'll have a folder set for the scope or adjustments that are coming there, the plans. All of that documentation is automatically included in the project once this opportunity is won, so that you don't have to, of course, re-enter all that data. And just like with all the other areas in Construction Online, adding new files and documents is very straightforward. In fact, you can just drag it and drop it in to that section and pull up that information.
That's right.
Estimates are the same. That's coming from your template. You can pull in all the information. All of it should be preloaded. As you're working through all of these different areas, again, that estimate, those files, all the documentation, everything is going to become part of the project once you win. Mm-hmm. And so don't hold back. Don't refrain from gathering documentation and putting it in here. You're not going to have to do it twice. There's no double duty here. Just
right.
Keep that in mind.
Everything that we build in step 1 builds on step 2, which builds on the next step until you have a live project, and all that information is in there. What I've done here is just generate a proposal so we can see that, for this blunt residence option 2, so I've got an estimate that we had in the system. Next step, generate that proposal, and you'll notice that once I generate that, now I can email it off to the client. I can go ahead and save it, which is going to allow me to save it into the file section for this project, so I can get it saved in quickly, download or print it if we want to go ahead and do a hard copy. That starts to update some of the opportunity details that we see here, where we can see that we've created that estimate and proposal. And then let's say that I get that over to the client, really to close out this opportunity and turn it into a project, which would be our last step here. Is probably one of the easiest steps of all. So you'll notice as I'm here on this blunt residence job, I have 2 options. One is if you're a right clicker like me, you can right click, convert to project. Or you can go ahead over here. You would also want to mark this as close won or closed lost. So we'll go ahead and mark that as closed won. So it's just letting me know, great, so we've won this job. Do we want to go ahead and convert it to an active project? So we get a nice little prompt. And of course, our next step would be to do exactly that. And then once we've converted it, you'll see that it disappears from my main or pending opportunities list and is now going to show up under this converted projects tab. But it's also going to show up here in my regular projects list as well. So there we have that exact same opportunity here is now showing up in my main projects list. And now that we've converted it to a project, we have not only the estimate and the proposal that we were just looking at, so that information is going to be there, but now you have all of your other Construction Online tools, your schedule, your to-do list, your punch list management, all is going to be, right here as part of this project.
And again, as you're working through this, keep in mind that all this information and more is going to be available, like everything that we've talked about today. We are recording this session today. I saw a couple of questions coming through about that already. So go back to the UDA Construction Online page. You'll find all of the recorded webinars, all of our past webinars are still going to be linked on that event page. So if you're interested in coming back to find more, you can find us there or on YouTube, or you can always reach out to us directly as well. Phone number here is 1-800-700-8321. You can ask for myself or Holly if you guys are interested, or you can email us at info@uda1.com as well. We can provide any additional solutions or questions or answers, I guess, to your questions as they come up.
We probably will ask you a few questions too.
I guarantee it. So again, as you're looking through this, keep all of this information in mind. The last thing, though, that I would mention about this is another hot topic for leads and opportunities. I have noticed a trend, especially for people who aren't accustomed to managing any kind of a sales pipeline or a lead pipeline, where if the person is lost, the kind of instinct for whoever is kind of nurturing this pipeline is to go through and delete those lost leads. If the opportunity is lost, I've seen a lot of people go through and delete those lost opportunities as well. But again, I'm going to heavily recommend against deleting anything. You should always keep all of this information available in there, and the biggest reason for this is actually the reporting and tracking of information. Now, I'm sure you've probably heard me say this a million times, and I've heard Holly say it a million times as well. Some of the most valuable jobs that you get are, of course, the ones that you win. Those are the ones that are going to be paying for you, paying for all the work that you're working with. But even the projects that you lose are still valuable because they tell you, they'll indicate to you where the opportunity got stuck, perhaps, or where the communication breakdown happened, or maybe it's just a question of expectation. Maybe the customer or maybe our sales rep were not clearly communicating expectations. But there's a world of reasons why leads may become inactive or lost. And so in ConstructionOnline, we give you the ability to do this. You can track the inactive leads. Maybe they just stopped returning your phone call. Or maybe you've got a customer who said, we're probably going to do it, but not right now. So we just need to put them on hold for a little while.
That's right.
But we give you all of these options so that you can refer back to those, and so that you guys don't lose that valuable reporting capability for what was coming through on those jobs.
Yeah, that's right. So with and I would agree with you 100%. There really we would not usually want to delete leads, and we would especially not want to delete them in most cases just because they kind of became inactive. By keeping those leads in the system, you really give yourself to do great reporting based on overall number of leads you've got in the system, number that you've won versus number that you've lost. And that's important information for you to have, for you and your sales team. You want to be able to do that reporting. There are a lot of ways that you can filter so that you don't have to look at leads that are no longer active, or that maybe you've got a hard kind of loss or pass on. So, you definitely don't always have to keep them as part of your most active list that you're looking at, but you do want to keep that information in the system so that you can gain that insight. The other thing, and you really brought this up, Ian, just to kind of show you guys where this is that in your lead details, so when we go to edit a lead and we update the status, closed, lost, or won, either one of these closed statuses are going to give us a new drop down or a new prompt here. So you'll notice when I mark this as closed lost, now I get a new drop down where I can choose a reason why we lost that lead. So it may be that they, that they're a lost reason, and again, you can customize these. It may be that when you think about your business model, that you commonly might lose a lead due to budget, or that you might lose a lead due to you internally decided not to pursue that. So when you mark the lead as lost, you'll be able to select that reason, and again, then go back and do some great reporting to see, well, how many did we lose to budget versus maybe how many we chose to pass on over the last year or the last few months.
And just, again, to give you a rough idea on what we have seen or some of our expectations. Me personally, working with groups like Remodelers Advantage or Narrier and AHB, I tend to find that the sweet spot for lead close rate is usually somewhere between 20 and 30%. If it's too high, let's say you get to 50%, 70%, 80%, that would tell me that you're not finding enough leads, you're not bringing in enough. You're potentially losing on opportunities because you don't have the ability to go in there and pick. Or maybe that's the other part. You don't actually have, if you've got an 80% close rate on your leads, maybe you don't have enough of a pool to choose the ones that fit your company right, and you're just taking what's out there. Again, neither one is great. And if your close rate is too low, maybe you're just reaching too far. Maybe you're trying to capture everything, and you're not being judicious about your time. So again, if you're fitting within that sweet spot, this is by no means, by the way, a law, but I find that the 20 to 30% tends to be the sweet spot. And the companies that have roughly that much as their close rates tend to be happier with the jobs that they have. They're picking jobs that fit their companies well. Their clients are happier as well because, again, they've found the right company for the job. And once again, you're able to keep a pretty rich pipeline doing something like that, and can always go back and revisit as needed.
So I think, Ian, that leaves us out of time for today. I hope that we've been able to answer all of your questions. We've kind of kept an eye on that and tried to answer as many of those as we can. But of course, as always, if you have those outstanding questions or things that you'd like to discuss with us, as Ian mentioned, please feel free to just give us a call here at the office. Again, that's 800-700-8321. Either of us or any of our colleagues would be happy to help. I also want to make sure that you guys are aware of the next couple of events coming up. We really have some great things planned. Next week, we'll be hosting a session to really show you guys the new integration with QuickBooks Online. So Construction Online now offers a really great integration with Construction Online. We've made some great enhancements for 2019, so we'd love for you guys to come and take a look at that. Our next Lunch and Learn will be on Wednesday, May 15th, and we'll be covering RFI and submittal tracking in Construction Online, so diving into some of those communication tools. And then as we kind of get further into May, we'll also be doing a great session on just really how to protect your business and kind of cover yourself with appropriate documentation, different ways that you can do that within Construction Online and ConstructionSuite. We also have some great sessions coming up into June on client portals. There'll be a guest speaker that we'll have for one of those sessions. Some great lunch and learns coming up for ConstructionSuite. So definitely check back this events page frequently. We try to, of course, keep you guys updated with emails, but this is always a great reference. You can come and always see the upcoming schedule as well as access all of the recordings from our previous sessions here.
Mm-hmm. Now, Holly, as you mentioned, that is going to put us out of time for today. So hopefully we'll see you next time for our QuickBooks session. I'm really excited to take a look at this too. As one of our QuickBooks Pro advisors here on staff, I always love to see some of the new tools and some of the cross-linking capabilities in QuickBooks, the QuickBooks Online integration. Huge time savers there, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it then. So hopefully we'll have a chance to talk to you then. And until then, everyone, thanks again for joining us today. We really appreciate you attending, and thanks for all the fantastic questions that we had. Always great to see that kind of interaction as well, and hopefully we'll talk to you next time. Until then, have a great night, guys, and a great weekend.